going to Portland and signing, getting the check that you
Yeah,
wanted, right? That
yeah,
was
70
finally
million.
get the
Yeah,
check.
yeah, yeah, that was dope. It was clutch.
So,
That came in clutch. That came in. I
so,
needed that. I was like, whoa.
so.
Yeah. I remember. I want to tell that story because when I got the 70 million, not like no flex, but I
Yeah.
remember listening, calling my agent, and my agent is like, "Yo, Portland wants to give you 70, like 70 million." I'm like, 17,
With 17.
and he's like,
Facts.
"No, 7D." I'm like, "No, 17." It's like, no, like 17 a year, and I'm like, wait, like dollars, like 70 million dollars, like you know what I mean? He's like, yeah, and I'm like, damn, bro, this is wild. So I called my mom, and he's like, I said, Mom, I'm gonna sign to Portland. You got to keep on the low, but it's gonna be for 70. And she's like 17. And I'm like, no, 70. She's like 17. I'm like, no, like a 7 and a D, like 7D,
7
7D,
and a D.
and it's 7D.
7D.
And she just literally said, oh my God. And I'm like, yeah, like we supposed to go to Portland in 3 days. I just can't die.
Welcome, everybody, to the Role Player Podcast, presented to you by the good folks over there at Swish Cultures that are still rocking with us, also in affiliation with Eurohoops.net. I am Jordan Taylor. Still rocking with me, the good guy, Stanford gentleman, CEO of Swish Cultures, and an 11-year overseas vet, the one and only Anthony Goods. He took his hat off from last week, man. That's crazy. You think he's shining. Line looking sharp,
Fresh
man. What's
cut.
good? Let us know.
Hey,
Fresh cut was
hey,
good.
nothing, man. I just like to say, I'd like to thank my savior, my barber from down the street. He got me right. You know what I'm saying? I love that humble look on your face today because you swagging on me last time.
Nah, I ain't never humble. I'm gonna stay. I'm shitting on everybody in here today. I say,
Oh,
I gotta hate. I only hate on a couple people. I love everybody. You know, we talked about changing this to the Show Love podcast, but today is gonna be a lie. It's gonna get spicy today. We got the one and only, man. We got the one and only. We got a former National College Player of the Year, a consensus first team All-American Big Ten Player of the Year,
yeah.
two-time first team All Big Ten, a Big Ten
What
tournament
else?
MVP,
What
the
else?
number 2 overall pick in the
Oh,
2010 NBA draft, man. We got the one and only. I don't know what the hell is going on top of his head, but we got the one and only Evan Turner, man. What's good? E.T. the Kid. What's happening, man?
man, what's good? What's good, man? I'm chilling out, enjoying myself. I figured this was like the number one most requested interview, so it's been a
Hey,
couple years. So we talk about malpractice. Jordan tried to get me on here, being like, "Yo, I can give you a $10 Chipotle card." I'm like, "Bro, wait, wait till I lose all my fortunes, then. If that's the case, I'll catch you.
yeah.
I'll catch you then." But
Hey,
nah, thanks for having me, man. I'm glad to be on this. Pause and you know, I've been watching you guys from afar and the content you've been building and everything you've been doing is really remarkable. And we spoke earlier. I'm trying to get my own stuff off the ground, so the path you guys have made has been super cool. So thanks for having me.
man, no doubt, no doubt. What is going on the top of your head? What you call that, Doc?
Oh, this right here.
Yeah, what you
These
call
are
that?
freeform locks. Freeform locks, baby. So like if certain areas of like Chicago, New Orleans, Florida, like Broward County, Jamaica, people would be really, really,
I was about
really,
to
really
say,
impressed. They'd be really impressed with what I'm doing. So
So you
I
saying
don't
you
know what
cultured? You saying you
I'm
cultured?
super cultured, bro. Once you know what I mean. We don't have to
Good,
speak about
good.
that.
What
You
you
know what
think?
I
You
mean.
Miami? You down there with
No, I
all
was about to
the
say,
Boricuas and all that? What you think?
That's what I'm saying.
Kodak. That's definitely
Yeah,
Kodak right there. It's Baby Yak.
and
Hey,
and
bro.
then keep it a bean with you. I've been out and about, and people have come up to offer, like women have come up and offered to wash and like condition my hair. So like while you making fun of it, it was like I'm on. Like, there's certain people. It's like, oh my gosh, this is it's like
Hey,
a lion's
I'm
mane.
gonna tell you one thing though. Like one thing that's super dope, man. I love how like black hairstyles are like accepted damn near everywhere now. Cause if you remember like back like early 2000s stuff like that, cats
Yeah.
used to be low key afraid to wear braids and do rags in
No,
public and stuff.
no, absolutely. So I had braids when I was 12, and my mom was big on like presentation and everything. So I was asking her like, "Can you braid me up?" And she's like, "If I do, you can't leave this house without braids. I mean, with braids. The only thing you can do is go in the back alley and dribble." And I thought she was playing with me, but like for sure, when she braided me up, I couldn't leave the house. I basically was like on punishment. So I was only having braids. for the sake of myself. And I asked her, I'm why can't I wear them to school or anything? Like, because I was about to start 7th grade, and she's like, no, your presentation, your representation, like braid says a lot about you in this day and age. You know what I'm saying? It was, I guess, equated to being a thug, or, you know what I'm saying, all that nonsense. And clearly I never was a thug, but, you know, it's cool to see how far it has come, because you even got people copying our hairstyles nowadays, trying to get waves, trying to get dreads, trying to, you know, get the free form. They all can't do the Wisconsin tape up like Jordan.
Hey,
You know what I
Carlton
mean?
man,
Banks, the
said-
Carlton
I
Yeah, the
Banks,
said-
Carlton
Carlton
Banks,
Banks,
that's what
the
I'm
even
saying.
Steven. They keep it safe. Keep it
That's
safe
what
by
I'm
any
saying,
means.
bro.
He
Hey,
ain't trying to
hey,
get pressed
Yeah.
outside. He
Hey,
ain't trying to get pressed outside.
Hey,
but-
I still be getting pressed by my pops for wearing a do-rag outside to this day. I'm 33 years old, but that's the last time this Stanford man over here, culture vulture man, Stanford in Wisconsin. What's worse, Stanford or Wisconsin? You tell me. Ohio
I'm a-
State. Like all you PWI ass
No,
motherfuckers.
I'm gonna be honest with you. Stanford do fake get away. They get away with, like, people forget how prestigious they are. At least in the neighborhood, like at least amongst the neighborhood. Like, we know Harvard, we know like the uppities, but like, okay, like Stanford could be a little bit different. But I'm saying, judging from like the people that came from there, Issa Rae, Roz Gold,
Come on, man. Come on,
it was
man.
like little Oakland up in there. People,
Jadena,
yeah, Jadena,
classic
yeah,
man.
yeah,
Come
like,
on, man.
I'm saying, when you break it down, I believe my man's was hanging in that crowd. I believe he wasn't hanging out with Brooke Lopez and them. He was hanging out with
Virgil went to Wisconsin.
Richard Sherman.
Richard Sherman. My point is, bro, Virgil, that was Virgil, bro. Virgil, R.I.P. Virgil. He went to Wisconsin, but like, that's not the same type of black dude as
At all.
At
As
all.
who?
At all.
Everybody.
At
As
all.
Rise Gold. Listen, man. Listen, you can't name 4 black folks and then say that we not doing that.
Yeah, I can
We
feel
are
that.
not doing
I can
that
feel
on this
that.
podcast.
You're right.
We not
You're right, because they did beat up Monty Ball that one year. You could get beat up in Madison. I heard it does go down in Madison. I did hear it does go down in Madison.
Hey man, if you
But this is a
you
perfect
gotta
match.
stay safe out there.
I can
It's
dig
gang
it.
initiation.
Yeah, but this is a perfect match, to say the least.
It is.
Did y'all bet on that?
You're right in there with us, so I don't know
No,
what you're
I'm a
talking
little
about.
man. Me and Jason Tatum always say. I told him, I said, it's a difference. So, where you from? I'm like, bro, I'm from the hood, but like, I'm an alley dude. It's street dudes, it's sidewalk dudes, and I'm in the alley. So like, I ain't like out in the streets, but I'm out and about. And like, you'd be like, oh, it's about to start shooting. I go in, but like, I know everything
Out
that
the
happened.
way.
But like, I'm definitely one of those sidewalk dude. Not saying y'all. I'm just saying, like, y'all might bring home 3.5s. I was getting at 2.8. You know what I'm saying? Like that type thing. Like that type situation.
I'm on the porch. I'm on the porch with it.
Yeah.
I already know where I'm at. I'm on the porch with
Hey,
it.
you and me
Proud
both.
of
Somewhere safe. What happened? Where was you at? Somewhere safe. Like,
it. Right.
you know what I mean?
Fact.
So it's
Hey man, but let's jump into this, man.
All right.
You talked about you and Iguodala obviously starting your own New Amendment production group. Also as well, Point Forward podcast. We got to shout that out.
Yes,
You
sir.
guys are doing big things as well.
Yes, sir.
So now we're seeing a lot of that nowadays. As you know, we've talked about this before. Draymond kind of dubbed it the new media, as far as NBA players goes, and for us overseas players goes. So I guess, do you think the response back in the 2010? What do you think the response would have been back in the 2010s when you first got drafted, and maybe even prior to all these players having podcasts and production companies?
Man, I feel like during that time, you were kind of like just still put in a position to be like, yo, be grateful you're in that position. You know what I'm saying? I think there was some athlete like outrising and kind of like getting outside the norm. But right now, we are still kind of boxed in when you break it down. I think, during my time in the NBA, not just saying myself doing anything, but going to the player meetings and thing, I think that the union and the gentlemen that were part of the NBA did a great job of kind of pushing the narrative of being more than an athlete. You know what I'm saying? I think the LeBrons, the Iguodalas, the Chris Paul, some of the top players in the world kind of pushed the tenfold of being like, yo, we can do something different. But all it was like getting outside the box to really own our space. And that was coming from making the game of basketball as valuable as it is and making people comprehend that there is a platform. We are marketable. We kind of set the culture for what goes on around us. And I think if you look over the past decade or so, I think the culture, even in between, black and whites, or even, you see players like Luka Doncic coming up and saying, I looked up to a LeBron, as opposed to back in his day, be looking up to a famous soccer player or something crazy. You know what I mean? So I think I love the progression of that, of what, not necessarily maybe always having the opportunity when I was first drafted, but now you see podcasts and everything popping up. And when you go deeper into it, it gives us a level of being respected as experts, because when you see who talks the game and everything, did they ever play basketball? No, most of the times not. I mean, if they're going to critique and call somebody terrible, did they play in the NBA? No, not at all. When you break down the 10,000-hour rules and all the scientific levels of what it takes to be an expert or to really teach the game, you see a lot of holes that happen sometimes in everyday life talking about the game of basketball. So sometimes we're adding up. How many times have you been in a locker room and see something come across a ticker and it's a rumor and it's the furthest thing from the truth? And that happens all the time. And it's like, when you break it down, it's like, yo, how much misinformation is being put out there for the sake of trying to sell news stories and sell this, that, and the other. And one thing about having new media is allowing us to tell our narrative, and to tell the narrative of a basketball player, not tell the narrative of somebody that played lacrosse. They needed a job, so they started doing basketball, and for whatever they think, they don't relate to us at all. They might have a disposition where they have no comprehension what a hooper is, why we may respond the way we do, why the way we may act the way we do. And when you break down the expertise of professional journalism, I feel as though, like anything else with being a CPA, being a doctor, anything, you have to have the credentials and the knowledge to do so. So that's why I'm super excited about the new media, because you're talking about guys that did 10,000 hours, played in the top 1% of the world, and can come back and break down a game. Why? Because it's what they do.
So it's how far can hoopers, athletes, but hoopers take new media? Because I was just gonna say, how crazy would people be looking at you or myself, or even like Iguodala's, people, LeBron, people at that level, if they're talking about the financial markets. Like, people would be looking at sports is the only thing where you can come in and be like, have no experience. But that being said, like with you and Iguodala, y'all are interviewing guys like Robert Smith, who's financial moguls, and y'all are interviewing people that are well outside the realm of sports. So how far can you take that new media and allow basketball players to transition into those mediums where they can talk about finances and media and whatever it may be, insurance, whatever it is, real estate?
I mean, for one, I would like to, emphasize the point, as long as the education is there and like the learning is there, I think anybody can do anything. Because at the end of the day, you look at like a Mike Tyson, he may not, like, he's a part of new media, but at the same time, he's part of culture and everybody loves him. Sometimes you can have the best message and we won't listen to it. It's about where it's coming from and how you impact life or how you impact that person. So I think a popular person like Chris Paul, he's a basketball player, but you see him doing Bloomberg stuff now. You see people being like, yo, I've seen him respected enough in the NBA, in the NBA world, where he's able to cross over, be the union president, stick up for, big time things, like even in regards to WNBA and stuff. And, I think the likability is the first part. And then the second part is, the education to really step up and do the groundwork. We're all doing the groundwork right now with putting our 10,000 hours in, and, building our own platforms in order to be ready for the big leagues.
Yeah, I think the dopest part about this era right now is, like, you got professional athletes kind of taking over the entire, like, sports world as agents and coaches, front office. They're producing, they're writing. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Kobe getting what was it? The Oscar for Dear Basketball. Yes. Like, I think, even though, like, let's just say, like, you got somebody like a Mike Tyson, he may not be smart enough to, like, or just not talented enough to write something, but he has the talent. You know,
and he has the access too.
That could be so you got somebody else that could be the capital, somebody else that can be a producer, and they're all keeping, the content organic from the athlete perspective. And I think that's what's dope about this era right now.
But I think also that's dope about this era, but it's also necessary, because when we add it up again, think about who we're getting our basketball information from. I understand where you're coming from. You can read, you can listen, you can talk to everybody left, right, and indifferent. Like, bruh, you have to be able to do it. Like, you understand what I'm saying? Like, like, if we're going to really talk experts, like, when we do real estate, I've been flipped real estate a bajillion times. I'm still going to have to make people believe I know about real estate no matter what it says because of the perception of it. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like when it comes to sports, like Jordan said it earlier, our sports are easiest to tap into, and sometimes it's easiest to really change the narrative or build a narrative because we don't really have a voice. And I think one thing when we did one of our first interviews on Point Forward with the older Isaiah Thomas, and he was saying back in Detroit, literally a lot of people that are writing for him, like the editors and all these people that were covering the team, the beat writers and everything, they were white. And it wasn't a problem, but at the same time, if you're going to write a point of view on a lead that's predominantly black, you have to have some type of background or narrative or some understanding besides basketball, besides what it is, because all this stuff really matters. And he said he went, he deep dove and, not only did the guys have basketball background, but he was just like, at least if they had culture and understood where they were coming from, it may be more beneficial in the representation of players, and I think that's one thing that occurs is the more and more you guys are able to tell stories and speak from a point of view, I think the realness is going to come out every single day,
Yeah, you definitely got to have some type of relatability. But what's the fine line? Someone that, such as yourself, you're a number 2 overall pick, right? Like you've been through all these experience at all, really that all the top NBA players have had. What's the fine line now between being like someone like Jason Tatum? What's the fine line between being able to stay focused on your craft and being able to shift into all this new media, whatever these other, I don't want to say hobbies, but these other mediums or professions? LeBron says that keep the main thing all the time.
Of course.
Like how do you walk that line, and what's the point? Does that become problematic for a player?
Yeah. I think MJ said it.
Or not?
Like MJ always said it, like all this stuff is here because of basketball. You know what I mean? So I think you got to really govern yourself on what your gift is, because that's what the real driving force is. That's when you go talk endorsements, when you go talk, the certain lifestyles you want, it's like, all right, this is really driven from basketball, that little orange pill. And I think you have to go with, with any situation, you have to go with your bread and butter, and put what's most important first. And I think it's as simple as that. I mean, when Tatum, for instance, when use Kobe for example, he's at the top of his game. He always worked hard. He dabbled and dabbed, during the off season, maybe in media. But when he is fortunate enough to be done, he dove face first into that. And I think there's always levels as long as you network and allow access to get things going. Yeah. I don't know. How did you guys do it? Like during this time, like you're still playing, like. What's the difference? What's the balance that Because even though it's not the NBA, you're still playing at a high level, and you're still expected to perform at a high level. You know what I'm saying?
I think good. You got to answer that. Starting Swish and all that. Like, what was that process like?
I mean, I think it was just more so. My thing was like I was trying to have a transition out, because I knew I was coming down to like the last 5 years of playing, and I was like, all right, let's get something. And I started off just trying to show love, but I think the balance is obviously you gotta kind of like time block your days. Like you gotta find a sacrifice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And everybody got the same 24 hours, so if that means you got to take a couple hours off of Netflix and dedicate that to something else, and that's something that I still do today. I try to like time block my days, but I mean, there's enough time. It's just what are you willing to sacrifice? I think is the main thing for players trying to dibble and dabble in other interests.
Yeah, and I think one thing I give much respect to you, because to be able to see the foreseeable future and do it like 4 or 5 years in advance, as opposed to being like, damn, I'm done next week, let me do this. Like timing and prep is key, because by the time you get done, we realized that with some of the stuff we put on, we have to be able to ready to hit the ground running, and cut out the levels of mistakes. You feel me?
I think for overseas guys, it's more about like cultivating relationships, because we don't, overseas guys don't necessarily have the same resources that a lot of NBA guys have.
Yeah.
You have some resources, right? But I think if you can kind of cultivate those relationships and lay the groundwork, it's easier to kind of, I don't want to say manipulate, but you can work your way into spaces and areas just through those relationships and have shit set up. You know what I'm saying? Like, and have them kind of you can kind of delegate what you want to have people do based on the relationships you have.
Yeah.
You know, based on how you make those relationships while you're still overseas and maintain them.
That's real.
No, I think too, whether you in the NBA or overseas though, you gotta like use kind of like your celebrity. You know what I mean? Why people care about your job and stuff like that. You got to be able to use that to get in those doors, meet them people, and all that other stuff. So I think regardless of who you are, even if you're overseas, okay, yeah, you got to do it 2 months in the summer.
Yeah.
You know, whereas if you're in the league, you know, you're in the States a lot longer, but you definitely got to take advantage of that, man.
Yeah.
That's key.
Yeah, no joke. And obviously your alma maters, I think one thing that occurs, a lot of players too, when I used to play, they used to be like, yo, why do you go back to, you know, the Ohio State all the time? I'm like, bro, I was able to make a good living there, but at the same time, like, my name is fresh there, and I understand the networking opportunities and who's been there, and it's like, yo, I gotta just make sure my face stays fresh, so when I, you know, retire and move back here, which I have, it's like, okay, I'm able to, you know, jumpstart into something and be able to maneuver around the city like I would like to, you know, both socially and business-wise.
Yep, no doubt. No doubt. But listen, man, let's talk a little hoops, man. We got to turn back the clock on you for a minute, man. You know, you
hooped in ages.
Yeah, I know. yeah, I know.
Forever.
But you think, hey, real shit. You think you could walk on the NBA court? I mean, not right now, but you think you could get back in shape and go hoop right now?
Yeah, for sure.
Like, what you think you got in you?
Yeah.
What you think you got in you?
I mean,
3-2.
Man, bro, this is what I'll say about the NBA, bro. If you get minutes, bro, you get minutes, you get shots, you're going to perform. Your top 400 in the world is literally like minutes and shots. If I got 28 minutes, what I average for a career, 10, 5, and 5, I would do 10, 5, and 5.
9-7. Quit bumping that shit.
Or whatever, bro. Who cares? No, that last year Atlanta killed me. I was at 10.
I know you was sick to have that go below 10 too.
No, I didn't care. I was just like, but like, I'm like, this ain't nobody gonna put an asterisk like, yo, he did 80 games and only gave him 8 minutes. You know, you know what I'm saying? But if I were to play today, I mean, respectfully, it's a different game. But I think I would stick to what I always done. I would go get 5 or 6 rebounds. I would distribute the ball. I play tough defense, and I would try to make the shots I could take.
You think that your game fits more with the current NBA than the time that you came in?
I think if you know how to play basketball, I always felt like I could play at any time. I mean, during this time, it's so much more heavier three-point shooting. And to be honest with you, I'm not shooting 10 threes a game. I'm just not. But, you know, I think at this level, the game has advanced, obviously, to at least 35 more feet out. So I think I could for sure play during this time. But the game has definitely advanced to three-point shooting. I was more so of a mid-range guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but you had that point. We talk about a lot how all the good teams, you have a lot of 3-point shooters, but all the best teams still have those facilitators and guards, whatever that make the team go.
Yeah, no,
switchability. Like I think your game fits perfectly.
Army
to,
knife.
No, of course. I think when it comes down to that, you just have to really nowadays in some of the bigger teams or whatever, like who's really playing those roles? You know, there's certain guys that play those roles. You got the Royce O'Neals that are still trying to do it, and you got the Marcus Smart who has heavy ball handling. But yeah, I think I would definitely have to fit on a playoff team with some vets. You know what I'm saying? Not the younger stuff or anything, but I think my game is always going to fit because I could always play the game of basketball. When you get on a court, there might be 6 or 7 guys in the locker room. They might only have a 3-point shot. They can't guard. They can't dribble. They can't pass. You know what I mean? That 3-point shot don't work in the last 5 minutes. The 3-point shot don't work on the road. Like, you understand what I'm saying? I think I could always play because I knew I had toughness to play. And my skill set is why they made the game. I could really pass, shoot, dribble. I just wasn't a 3-point shooter. You know what I mean?
So if you had to pick one quality, I guess, for an NBA player, non-star. Now, I think we talked about this before, but one quality for a non-star, what you think the most important quality for a role player to have in the league is?
IQ. I think IQ, the most important thing, because you have to know awareness. The number one thing to be a role player is to accept it. And then when you accept it, like what Brad Stevens would always say, you got to know your role, accept your role, and star in your role. And like sometimes if you're fighting it and everything and worried about, like, we always have a saying, like, you can't worry about what's on the next man's plate. And I think
Yeah.
sometimes the best role players no longer care about starting them when they get in, but they're like, yo, this is what I need to do to help my team. And I think the IQ to do so is going to allow you to adapt to any situation. And that comes from being like, in my position, I was a point forward. I could play the 1, the 2, the 3, and then if I had to slide to the 4, it's like bet. Because at the end of the day, I know how to guard. I know certain positions. I know how to set screens. I know how to short roll. I know to comprehend. I'm being played at the 4 because I can get Dame and CJ the ball or go get Paul George a shot. Like, I'm a big guard. Like, you know what I'm saying? I think you can do none of that without feeling IQ and awareness. And that comes from playing basketball and learning the game. But I think one thing that kind of gets missed a lot, and I can't blame them, is if you shoot 40%, you don't have to do anything else. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, facts.
And that's
Facts.
that's
But
that's the toughest thing.
so how long did it take, or if any time at all? Because you can't. What you averaged 17, and like you averaged something crazy like 17. What was it? Your last year in Philly.
Oh yeah, like
17,
yeah, some like
5.
yeah, something like that. Yeah, I was like
And
averaging 20 for a little bit. It's a tank Sixers, so like some of the games where we take an L and like the numbers would drop, but I was averaging like 17, 18 as a starter. I averaged around 15 points a game or something.
so how long did it take you to go? Because most guys they didn't pick up your option after that.
Yeah,
Which most guys doing that, you getting your option. That's nowadays you getting 25 a year off
yeah,
that.
yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah, yeah.
So what was the transition like? How long did it take you to accept, I guess, going to Indiana right away and then Boston, and readjusting yourself from the face of a franchise to now fitting into a certain role or whatever it may be?
Man, it probably took like after leaving Indiana and kind of sitting that whole summer and not getting like an offer in a sense. Like I was kind of like just sitting back. I'm looking at offers and I'm like, wait, I'm supposed to be qualifying for 8.7. I'm getting offered $250,000 to play basketball. You know what I'm saying? So like, like I'm sitting there like, wait, what? Like, what is going on, dog? This don't make no sense. Like, Gordon Hayward averages 10 after these years. Chandler Parson averages 10 a game after these years. They can't shoot for shit. They're getting 20-something million, 30-something million. How did this, you know what I mean? How did this fall off? And I remember sitting there and I'm pissed and I'm like upset. I remember talking to my mentor and he's like, look, bro, you got to drop all that shit and literally just be accepting of where you're at right now. And it was kind of like the entourage, like when Vinny
You
Chase was
fell
against
off,
Star
yeah.
Rose, he's just like, hey, bro, you got to accept it and move on. It's like, it's not the Star Rose. I'm not getting Star Rose anymore. Like, this is literally where you're at right now. This is 4 years ago, everybody wanted Evan Turner. And right now, this is genuinely where you're at. You can literally sit here and say, the world is tripping, or you can accept it and then get better from it and then work your way up. And then when the next contract comes, you say, this is where I'm at with it. And that's literally, I think, I was open to the fact of doing it when I entered Boston, and then when I was kind of like sitting in Boston, I'm like, whoa, I was drafted ahead of this dude. Like, we're the same class. They're giving him my place. I'm like, bro, I can see if I was like, if these people were better than me. But like now we're just going
Yeah.
by a narrative of being like, yo, he's the guy. So that was one thing where I remember showing up and thinking like, yo, I have to, like I said, in order to be a role player, I'm like, yo, so I'm not getting the offense ran for me anymore. Like, I have to get in where I fit in. Like, they got a young point guard in Marcus Smart. They have a young point guard in Phil Pressey. Rondo's knee is hurt.
Pressy shit.
Yeah, Rondo's knee is hurt. Until Marcus Smart's develop or whatever, my best bet literally may be to take advantage of the nights where Rajon Rondo is sitting out on, second games of back-to-back to recover from knee injury. You feel me? So
Yeah.
once it came down to it, and I played a couple roles, and I was kind of like, responding. I started to realize that like it was either take it or not. Like pretty much, you can either accept this role and what we give you, or you just go overseas. And I'm like, bro, most people go overseas and most people kind of like bitch up. I kind of always just wanted to be real, like with myself. I'm like, look, bro, I'm not going to dip overseas. I'm not going to do anything off the wall. I'm just going to man up, stay, and fight. Like, if I leave now, I'm going to leave. And people like, he was a bust, he was a bust, he was a bust. I'm like, bro, I'm not doing none of that shit. I'm going to show up. If I get my ass kicked, I'm going to show up and get my ass kicked. But, like, one thing I always told myself, I was legit like, hey, bro, I'm a top-notch dude. I'm only eating filet. I'm only playing in the league. That's the only thing I'm doing. I'm not going to no passport. Nobody's picking me up, shipping me off. Like, I'm going back to the park. I'm going to go get my shit, and I'm going to be involved in this somehow. Like, I know I'm a dog. And I'm just like, if I got to be a role player in this situation, I know I'll be good enough to make it happen because I knew I was a good-ass basketball player. I'm like, at my worst, I'm better than some of these dudes. So, like, no, adjust ET, like, you tough enough to do it. And I always just have this weird situation in my head where I'm like, why me? And it's like, because you tough enough to do it, ET. Like, you got it all. Like, that's what I talk, like, you know, Jordan, how I talk. I'm like, wait, I got it all. I'm good, baby. I'm good. Like, ET can do it. And I think that was one thing. And aside from accepting my role, I think during that time, I matured a lot as a man. You know what I'm saying? I thought I matured a lot of, I mean, I'm not the best at it now. I still get stubborn, but I thought I matured a lot of being able to, my first real part of life of being like, yo, should I run or should I fight? And I'm like, all right, I'm going to fight and get my shit together and, you know, try to, you know, make a lasting career and get to 10 years like I wanted to.
Man, I think it's dope. You know, we talk a lot, and one of the things I love talking to you about is like the mindset that you always put out there. Like, you really believe it.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's easy. I think a lot of people assume that professional athletes are just confident people.
Yeah, man.
And I feel there's a lot of insecure professional athletes,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? And it's like some people will try and put that in their mind, but the execution on top of the belief is the hard part. You know what I'm saying? So it's definitely dope to hear, you know, your story and hear you talk like that and actually follow through with it. But I guess my question after that would be going to Portland and signing, getting the check that you wanted, right?
Yeah,
that was
$70 million.
Get the check.
Yeah, that was dope. It was clutch. That came in clutch. I needed that. I was like, whoa. Yeah. I remember. I want to tell that story because when I got the $70 million, not like no flex. But I remember calling my agent, and my agent is like, yo, Portland wants to give you 70 million. I'm like, 17?
17.
And he's like, no, 7D. I'm like, no, 17? It's like, no, like 17 a year. And I'm like, wait, like dollars? Like $70 million? Like, you know what I mean? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, damn, bro, this is wild. So I called my mom, and he's like, I said, Mom, I'm going to sign to Portland. You got to keep it on the low, but it's going to be for 70. And she's like, 17. And I'm like, no, 70. She's like, 17. I'm like, no, like a 7 and a D. Like 7D. 7D.
7 and a D.
And it's 7D.
7D.
And she just literally said, oh my God. And I'm like, yeah, like, we supposed to go to Portland in 3 days. I just can't die. I got to get there, sign that paper, and we good. Like, you know, like right there, the money went to my head. I'm sitting there like, oh. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what? Like, and that, you talk about a cool moment, and I'm not bragging. I'm just saying, like, I came from a situation, like humble beginnings, but I was just blessed because that was one of those times where, you know, we skipped through a lot, but during those 2 years, I went to Boston just trusting in myself and trusting in adapting and opening up and trying to try new things and trying to be like, you know, try to fully get coached and trust people. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't know because when you come from the background you come from, it's Darwinism. I'm only successful because I comprehend Darwinism, like survival of the fittest. Like they say, like rapper, or you got a wicked jump shot to make it out. Bro, I had a crazy 16 when I was 15, and I had a handle. Like I comprehend Darwinism. So like when it comes down to it, like I'm just glad I was able to overcome some dark down times, and you know be able to make it and get to a point like Portland and realize like what you know hard work and focus and restarting can do. You know.
That's one of them moments that I think whether you done got 70 million, which most of us have not, but even if you didn't, that's one of the moments we can all relate to because like everybody done dreamed of that.
Yeah. So
when you hear the story, it's just like that's dope as hell.
Yeah.
As a basketball player, was it like vindication because you got the 70, probably not how you envisioned you was going to get it, as a number 2 pick. Like, you probably saw yourself as being on the Steph Curry level as a basketball player, whatever it is. But you got it as a role player, and you got to go play with Dame and CJ, and, your role was lesser, but you getting paid.
Yeah.
So as a basketball player, was it vindication, or was there something left to be desired, even though you got the check you wanted, but maybe your role wasn't exactly what you thought it would be?
I think it's like a 50-50 thing, to be honest with you, because it's humbling. We talk about sacrifice a lot, but it's humbling. It's one thing to do something on your own and push yourself to it, but it's another thing to sacrifice and do something as a team. And this shit sound crazy, bro, but when you sacrifice and do something as a team, like, that shit feel better than anything. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, damn, like, we really, like I said, you get outside yourself to trust people in a locker room, to go into a locker room filled with competition and everything like that, like, for people to get outside themselves for the betterment of others, for people to comprehend when I'm in Boston to be like, yo, we're the role players, Isaiah's the star. He shoots all the rock, we guard his man, he does camera, TV, pretty face, good cheekbones, like, he gets all the pub and we do all the work. And he comes through in clutch. It's like, we understood that was our job, but we took it to a high esteem because it was like, yo, we're playing for something bigger than us. And I think when I got to Portland, it wasn't so much like, hey, I'm getting $18 million, but my role might be lesser. I didn't know my role would be lesser, but I also was like, yo, whatever we can do here in order to win, I know I'm going to go further with the help of them, more so than trying to take a step back in what I did in Philly and end up, flat on my ass. You feel what I'm saying? So I see it all in stride, and I understand timing, and I understand just being, grateful for the position you in. So I was never like, oh shit, 17 million or whatever. It was just vindication, like, thank you. Like, I have 4 years locked up. I should not be having to pick up and move every couple of years. I shouldn't have to be the option to be like, Evan's the one that has to go. I always thought I was good enough basketball player where, like, a team needed me. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And that's what I felt.
Did you feel like when you got to Portland, you still had, like, that chip on your shoulder after the whole Philly situation and everything else? Like, you think that you carried that on? Because, like, sometimes guys get paid or they get, like a big increase, and then they kind of chill and get complacent.
I don't even think it was complacent. More so, I don't want to say there wasn't a chip on my shoulder, but when you start becoming older and how I matured, like, there's tons of crazy times in Indy. There was tons of times where, during that time after Indy, like, I had to mature a lot and I had to shed a lot of stuff. And most of it was the public opinion. And I think during that same time when I shed the public opinion, I think I was able to accept more of my role and to kind of grow into myself. So when I sat there, like I said, during that same time, I was starting to love, like, the team atmosphere and being like, hey, I know as long as my brother has my back, I can sacrifice in this sense. And I think during those 4 years, as opposed to individual accolades and, like, kind of being really aware of who makes those judgments. And in Boston, I thought I was supposed to be 6th man of the year. Literally. I thought I was supposed to be 6th man of the year. Shout out to OG Jamal Crawford, but when you add it up, I'm shooting 45%, 10, 5, and 5. Jamal shooting 39%. And averaging 14 a game and 1-1. Like, do you understand what I'm saying? So, like, when it comes down to it, I'm like, these people aren't even watching half the time or don't even know what they're looking at because they're soccer players writing about basketball. Like, the people that really know, I have to really be okay with getting my love and my stripes from people that know basketball, and maybe when I'm dead. Like, you understand what I'm saying? Like, it's only 4 or 5 people that are going to be loved on earth, and the rest of us might not be loved until we're dead. Like, so, like, once I got to Portland, I'm like, bro, I'm not going to worry about what this person says or what that person says. I'm going to try to win. Like, during that time in Portland, before that, I never won, like, more than 48 games. And the West was a beast. During that time in Portland, I believe we went 50 wins twice. We made it to the playoffs 3 times. And every single time they had us picked 11th in the West. And one time we went to the Western Conference Finals for the first time in 20 years. Like, it's shit deeper than that, because when I was averaging 20 or 18 or 17 in Philly, we didn't even have not one TV game. I was literally wasting my time. You understand what I'm saying? And it's like playing for something, playing at a high level. I'm cool with not averaging 20 and averaging 9 or 10 if I'm playing with the big dogs. And it's like, you understand what I'm saying? Because once you go into those crowds, the OGs ain't gonna respect it if you ain't really do it in treacherous times. You know what I'm saying?
I was.
And I think that's like when you have to really comprehend like who you really like what critique you're taking. Is it really a baller and a killer that you look up to, or is it some weirdo that got cut from the basketball team as a sixth grader, and then he was a manager the whole time, and now he hung around long enough to be a cool kid, and then just start screaming his opinion and screaming his opinion. Like, you know what I mean? Like, think about who calls the games and shit. It's like, bro, just because you went to the school of journalism, don't mean you can critique, say this and the other, bro. Sometimes you could be getting advice from a fucking baseball player in the NBA. How to stop LeBron. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, this is really what be occurring. So sometimes you got to really, like, you would love to, like, enjoy and have everybody love you, but at the same time, to survive, you got to take the good with the bad and be like, yo, taking certain info, like, man, fuck that shit. I keep my head up. Some weirdo that never hooped could put out something crazy about me and kill my confidence, but when you break it down, I'd be like, why would I listen to that? You know what I'm saying?
And now with the game being more popularized, it's
Uh,
happened. Like there's more players coming in with new media, but there's also
More
more of those
people.
type of people, and that's why you see KD talking like the discourse around basketball is so toxic,
Yeah,
which it is,
yeah.
and it's like people they're gonna clown KD talking about you sensitive, but it's like
No, stop
to be
talking
honest,
to
this
me, dog.
means
Yeah, stop fucking
stop
talking to
talking to me
me,
because it's
goofy.
like it's
Yeah.
yeah, and these people like they calling KD sensitive, but it's like it's they don't comprehend like this is like our life. Like you know how much time and effort and work you done put into this craft and this
Yeah.
and the energy, and to have you who like you said whatever you may be tell me that I'm not doing or I ain't shit. Like come on, dog.
Yeah,
Like
you
what are we doing?
and and and,
What are
uh,
we doing?
and in these situations, only an athlete has to be humble. Like,
Right,
do you understand what I'm saying? Like, sometimes,
right.
like, I'll talk, and I always joke about this all the time. And I said this on my pod. I said, I notice when people don't matter when I tell a joke about myself or say, like, oh, I wasn't this good, or, you know, I joke and be like, a bus, a bus, a bus. They'll be okay with that. But if I say anything about, like, it's factual, like, yo, only player to ever come off the bench and literally have back-to-back triple doubles. I don't want to hear that shit. Like, da da da. Like, you understand what I'm saying? Like, yo, I think I could do this. Like, yo, I think I could play in today's modern NBA. I think my game is a game for the past this decade and the past 5 decades. I think right now, if shit hit the fan and it came down to it, I think I can perform in the clutch with the best of them and be prepared. This dude's fucking crazy. He's out of his mind. He's such a prima donna. He's egotistical. Da da da. And it's like, bro, what? So when you really break it down and add it up, it's like, bro, you got to keep your ears shut to all the bullshit and pick what rooms you go into. You got Kevin Durant, one of the best scorers ever, having to tell a group full of people in the finals, no, dog, I'm not about to worry about Pat Beverly. Do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? I'm Kevin Durant. Like, do you understand? Like, this stuff happens every day. You feel me?
That's is again. I think we had this conversation overseas. We had this conversation overseas. Like overseas players is always like there's levels to everything, right?
Yeah.
Everybody knows that, and it's like I should be in EuroLeague or I should be in the NBA, and it's like I think there's an assumption from overseas basketball that cats in the NBA are just like I'm in the NBA, it's cool. So, but then you start listening and you're like, all right, you hear cats in the NBA, be like, nah, like I should be, you know what I'm saying? I should be this. I should be an all-star. I should be an all-NBA player.
Yeah.
I should be LeBron. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's always dope to hear how how the levels of all that stuff work. And I think, again, new media is going to help kind of bring out all those stories and those fresh perspectives.
Yeah.
But just to talk about how your careers come full circle, again, you got, like you said, you got the money in Portland. What did you learn from Philly, when you was averaging 17, you was the number 2 overall pick, and you had Iguodala for a time, and I think Lou Will too.
And
Right?
Drew Holiday. That's funny. Drew Holiday, that. That's another thing. Drew Holiday, that young, Nikola Vucevic, myself.
Vucevic, yeah. Y'all had, yeah.
So
y'all had.
Yeah, so Drew Holiday, Spencer Hawes, Lou Williams, Nikola Vucevic, Lavoy Allen, Andre Iguodala, myself, Lou Williams. That team right there, after playing 2 minutes away from the Eastern Conference Finals, we took the Boston Celtics to a Game 7. Rajon Rondo hit 2 threes down the stretch. After we lost that game, Some experts said that team peaked.
I remember that.
They said that team peaked. Traded Iguodala when he just turned 27. Drew was 20. Lou Will was 24. They said that team peaked. Traded Iguodala, brought in 3 more guys, good dudes, still trying to figure it out, but brought in Andrew Bynum, and he never played. From there, the whole organization fell apart. And you want to know what happened? You want to know what they blamed it all on? Like they did with Phoenix and all those young guys that, for 6 years, like the lottery picks that came, they blamed it on the young dudes. They didn't blame it on like the front office being like, yo, how you draft the number 2 pick and then have a future Olympian in his way to play. Like, do you understand what I'm saying? That even when you guys work it out, how do you figure out that this team is done? We got to get rid of them. Like, what I learned at a certain point is you have to have trust in your inner circle and your teams. But the number one thing is just producing. Because at the end of the day, like, you can't rely on anybody to get you there or be on your side. You don't know how many times I thought there was somebody on my side, and I go to Indiana, and I think I'm brothers with somebody, and like when we're looking at certain things that occur, I can't even get them to go to bat for me. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So like you really have to know your group, and at the end of the day, no matter what, the work comes first. It's the only thing that's going to make you last. The work comes first and competing, because other than that, people at the top in the game and timing and interchanges so much that you can't. It's full of shit, bruh. Like the narratives and everything, you know.
You answer my question for me, because I was gonna say for you, like you was in low key in Dame and CJ's position,
yeah.
And then for them to have someone like yourself and even like Mo Harkless and all those other guys, but that's someone like yourself who was in their position. Like that's gotta be extremely helpful, and I don't even know if they would realize that at the time. Like, but to their success in their career, to have someone who can relate, but also someone who's going to take, for lack of a better term, a back seat.
Yeah, I think one thing that occurred, and I would like to give them credit too, because they always try to encourage you, like, yo, you cold, kill, like, bro, do your thing, you got to attack, like, you know what I'm saying? And those dudes prepared and they could score, and they were unbelievable. But I think one thing that occurred, I guess humility came with it, was when people would trip on them shoes, and I'm like, bro, I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. Like, I probably wouldn't pass neither. Like, literally, I'm like, during that time, too, everything's set up for you. It's not like the coaches tell you to pass. I'm not saying they're ball hogs. But at the same time, you work so much and you're so confident, you really think every shot can go in. So, like, when they would get going there, I'm like, bro, I'm not gonna trip, bro. And, like, I used to say, like, if y'all had the same position, I guarantee y'all probably wouldn't pass either. And this just is what it is, bro. And, like, I think one thing about those fellas in that locker room is like, yo, these are 2 head honchos. We get in where we fit in. And at the end of the day, we all win. We all enjoy ourselves. But we got to accept our roles, bro. The worst thing is being being somewhere and it's too many, too many Chiefs and no Indians. It's really, I think, the older and older you get, it's really that simple. And I think that's where I guess it was somewhat advantageous in the locker room, because I was able to shut out some of that nonsense, because it's just like, no, those are the stars. Those dudes score in nights when we're tired. Like, those dudes earn everything they get. Like, yeah. And I think we had a good group of guys that were able to step up and be like, yo, accept our role, star in our role.
Yeah. Good. You can go ahead and hit paycheck, rain check, man. Close it out.
Man, paycheck, rain check. Last segment, man. Somebody's paycheck's taking a rain check, but we got my man Kemba Walker, man. He's
that's my dude.
Signed with the Mavericks. He just signed with the Mavericks. They let JT's boy Facu go, man. Facu coming back over here with us.
Campazzo, man, bro. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a Campazzo fan, but come on, baby. A four-time All-Star, All-NBA dude.
Facts.
To like college champion, like all this. He's at the crib. I don't give a.
No, that was my question. That's my question. Though. It's like, how does a guy like that not have a gig for so long? Like, how does this happen? How does this happen in the league? Because we see it happen.
I'm gonna be honest. I think narrative. You mix in a narrative, because the NBA is all narrative. You mix in a narrative with a bunch of dudes that don't really know what the fuck they doing. It's like, this is easy to happen. It's like when I was the number 2 pick. If I don't perform like a number 2 pick, you can put my numbers up with 10 or 11 other guys, like I just said, that got money. No matter what, the perception is I'm invaluable. Like, I was at this high level. I was supposed to average 18. Even if I average 9 with the rest of them, like I'm worth less. Like, do you understand? Or 10 less. And I think when it comes down to when you're Kemba Walker, and he's done a great job of playing at a consistently high level for years and years and years. I think when the knee injuries occur, when a change of a tight end occurs where, you know, it's hard to be the OG to dudes like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum where it's inevitable they're going to be taken over. So now you mix that in with garnering what? Kimba's like, nah, bro, I've been eating filet my whole life. You're not about to feed me hamburger helper. Yes, I want to make 20-something million a year. So you start comprehending where people lose fun for the game of basketball because professional sports is the business of basketball. It has nothing to do with him playing. It has nothing to do with him sacrificing his knee during the bubble and running his body down. It has nothing to do with him playing sick. It has nothing to do with him signing during the time and saving them when their whole franchise is messed up for how they did Isaiah. Like, you understand what I'm saying? It has nothing to do with that besides what we're looked at, which is a number and an asset. And then when you break it down, it's somebody from ISR, a different culture, or not even a culture. I don't even want to make a culture. Somebody that's just like, no, he's a fucking bum. In the NBA, a front office dude's gonna either say he's good or he's a bum. They don't know any difference. So they don't see Kemba Walker for the dog he is. They only see Kemba Walker being like, you talking about the guy that's making $38 million, is an all-star and this and the other? There's a bunch of bottom feeders waiting to pull him back down to the bottom so they can feel decent. That's the only thing I can think of, bro. Like, this shit don't make no sense. He just stopped being able to hoop. Basketball is the only... Sports is the only thing that, like, you get less valuable the older you get. When you go into banking, doctors, everything else, the older dudes are viewed as experts. Second we hit 30, get them the fuck out of there.
Do you keep mentioning like culture, and there's an obvious like racial cultural divide between front office decision makers and the players on the court, right? Mm-hmm. So do you think that plays a role in how these dudes are viewed? Like you saw Carmelo struggle to get back in the league, like Kemba. Do you think that plays a huge role in why these dudes are viewed like that when they have to maybe take a step back and get back into a league?
I don't, it's so tough, you know, because obviously you don't want to throw everything in the same pot because every situation is different. I just think what might worry you about worry this person about a Carmelo might not worry the next man about a Carmelo because of the background they're from, and they understand like, hey, bro, like he's good, just let him hoop, use him for this. But like, I think the number one thing that gets taken away sometimes is we'll use too many intangibles in anything involving basketball as opposed to just being like, it's basketball. I love, what's my man's name? I love Luke Cornett to death. I coached him 1 year at Boston and everything. But when you add it up, like, dog, like him jumping from the block to contest a 3-point shot don't make sense. Don't add it up and make sense to me why DeMarcus Cousins not in the league. Like, you understand what I'm saying? So, like, it's moments like that where, like, we're doing so much from not, like, it started with the eye test. You understand what I'm saying? The eye test, analytics replaced the eye test. And then after that, it was open run from there because I think from there, opening doors for more opinions and more voices because there's so many people that don't know the game and they relate and just say, hey, I'm getting tired of getting beat with the eye test. And you add up more, it's like, all right, I bought the team. You're not finna tell me I don't know nothing because of the eye test. No, I like basketball. I play every day half court with my friends. No. Analytically, I'm going to read this and I'm going to tell you, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's literally as simple as that. And that's how the dice rolls. But, I mean, everybody's on their own path. So the game is going to end the way it's supposed to end. And you have your own responsibility to accept it. You know what I'm saying? But also, too, I'm not with the DeMarcus Cousins point of now he asking GMs like, yo, what did I do? Why are people scared of me? It's like, nigga, your first 8 years you was wild. Like, you know, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, your first 8 years you was buck. What you mean? You know? So, that's it.
No doubt. Hey, man, that's all we got for you, man. We appreciate you pulling up, dropping knowledge on us, man, sharing your time with us. I know You don't got a lot of it these days, so we
I
appreciate
don't.
you popping in for a second, man. We want y'all. That's Evan Turner. Make sure y'all go check out Point Forward Podcast when you get a chance. Keep your eye out. New Amendment Productions coming with a lot of content soon. I'm Jordan Taylor. That's Anthony Goods, and we'll catch y'all next time.
Appreciate y'all.